Hi there, you guys. I wanted to talk about something that came up to me. Um, I wasn't even trying to make a video today, but I'm kind of glad that the Spirit led me to talk about this because sometimes when something drops on me, I ask myself, is it God or is it man? And sometimes I'll just sit on it. And now God has been telling me to jump on some things. So, excuse me. Excuse me. Let me get that. Maybe that'll help a little bit so you can see me a little bit better. Okay. So, yeah, I'm sitting in my big comfy couch. Big comfy. Well, not my couch, my chair, but it's kind of big. It's really, really big, and I really, really like it. See, it's really, really big. Um, Anywho, there were a couple of programs that were in my proximity, and if you guys hear the noise, I'm sorry. I live downtown, so and it's kind of warm, and everyone's ready to go outside after being clogged up in the house and everything. So that's why you might hear some noise, hear some outside laughter, some scooters or something, or people on motorcycles, mostly people on motorcycles. However, back to what I was talking about, there is a couple of organizations that are coming up and they're lifting the ban on how what do you need to end up to getting assistance as far as food and items like that, um, financial assistance and everything else, which is good because there are a lot of people, even though there are some people, thank God I still have my jobs, um, and I have my own business, and yeah, so I'm okay. God is provided for me, and He always does. Um, Thank you, God. But there are some people who are out there struggling, who are going through some hard times during this drastic change. So as I'm looking down there, I'm like, okay, that sounds really good. They're lifting a lot of restrictions. Um, and I will say that one thing with this area in Fort Wayne, they have a lot of resources. Um, the the reason why you probably couldn't get any resource is if you don't know them. That was my biggest issue because I was new to the area. I didn't know anything. So it was kind of tough for me for that time. And not only that, people like I look different than the typical person that was asking for help, as if that amounts to anything. But because I know for myself that you know people going through different times go through different walks of life. They come through every form of walks of life. It's not a certain type of person or a certain group of people. Everyone has hardships. So anywho, they were talking about all the resources and the things that they were giving out and things of that sort. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But something dropped down in my spirit, and I was like, okay, is this you, God? Like, I've been trying to talk to God. Like, I really, especially yesterday and last week, but really yesterday, I was like, God, like, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to be doing right now? And I'm like, speak to me and tell me what I need to do. So as I looked at that, something dropped down in my spirit. It was literally like, people don't need to um, they don't need to get more. They need to be careful for what they have. They need to be in the present of what they have. So what made me think about it, I was like, what is that thinking about being a good steward? And then I was like, God, thank you for talking to me and letting me be calm to hear your voice. But I was like, how? What do you mean about, what am I supposed to talk about being a good steward? And he reminded me of how I went through the process when I did not have anything and I went through the right channels. When I did not have a job, I went through the right channels. People were saying really bad things to me. They were doing really bad things. But I remember, I'm like, if I keep my focus on God and I do what He tells me, eventually this has to come to pass, and not only does it come to it has to come to pass, I have to be moved to the top. I can't stay at the bottom, because God doesn't deal with that. He doesn't just let you just go through with things. He brings you up from the top. So God was just telling me that, like, that's what he dropped in my spirit again. So I was like, okay. And then he started telling me to remember, remember when you went through this process, that I didn't let you just overpass it. I could have had the control to give you to go to the job that you were, that you should have been qualified for, to a job that you could have been of great use, to a job that you definitely were qualified because of the certifications and the paper documents. Not only that, but with the experience that I had. But I let you go through this to teach you something. And during that time, I remember it, and he just started showing me, and it was like a flashback in my eyes, like literally, like I was here, but it was a flashback of showing me when I was at this one church, and they say that they help. Oh yeah, they give out assistance, and it's really not them helping. They have public funding, and you're working, because anytime you have to do something extra, you're working. People don't understand that you're working for what you get. Which I don't have a problem with that at all. I think you should. You're on this earth to do something. It might not be the job that people design for you to do, but everybody is supposed to do some kind of job. We're designed to work, if I can say that. But when I was going through that process, I literally they had to show these documentation. They were like, let's see how you spend your money, because this has to happen because you're not budgeting correctly. And I was like, okay, sure. So when I brought down my budget, the people were looking and they was astonished. They were astonished, because with the little resources that I had, the financial resources, I was able to do everything that I was supposed to do and have something left. They were like, how you did this? Like, there was no way. Like, this has to be God. That's literally what the guy said. And he was like, I'm going to pray for you. The woman came in there. They were looking like, yeah, you literally split that money up. You did this. You did that. And it not to say, put any glory to me, because all the glory belongs to God. Because it was, I'm telling you, it was so stressful for me. It was so stressful. I had to cut back. I had to go and have discipline. So when I got up out of it, God was telling me, like, I had you to go through this because you have to be a good steward. You can't, how can I drop off $2 million to you or $5 million to you? Excuse me, that looks kind of weird. Yeah. How can I drop off $5 million to you and know that you are doing and expect you to do what I've designed for you to do and to do the right things, if you cannot handle freaking $500? How can you be guardian or watcher over my children and you can't even govern yourself? How can you be a leader when you haven't even learned the process of being a diligent follower? So that is what I came on here to talk about. Sometimes God doesn't put you through things to build you. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. It might be through your own choices, or it might be through just so God can build you up to do something better. That process, I couldn't understand it at that time. I was just like, why? Like, I kept putting in these applications, these resumes, these things that were going, and they were saying no. And then they would say, okay, we don't have the job, but you can volunteer here, and then we'll find you a place afterwards. And I will volunteer there, and they will hire somebody else and then have me to train them. It was like, okay, how do I understand? How do I become, which ended up being a blessing to me in disguise, because the person that got hired didn't have the training when I ended up getting the job, and I ended up being her boss. See, look at God. You have to be a good steward over what God has given you. Not just with your money, with your time, with your energy, with your space. One huge thing I had to learn was not to let negative people, or people who are not only negative people who are not going in the same direction as me, to occupy my time and my space. I have a huge problem with that because I look at people from sometimes how long in the relationship that we had. But sometimes when God is growing you and putting you into another dimension or another dynamic, He wants you to be around other people who are able, who've been on that level, who can take you to that level and guide you into that level. Me, I was having a huge problem because I knew I was supposed to go on that level, so I would have certain people that I knew could take me to the level, but they didn't really regard me. But they were in my circumference. They were in my spectrum. They were in my circle. And there were some who didn't want to go anywhere, who were fine where they were at, and I wanted to pull them up, and that causes a lot of friction. And that is a waste of time. That is a waste of time and energy. So, yeah, that's what God had me just to spill out, to sprue out. Are you being a good steward? Yes, you need food, but man, you can't live off of bread alone. And I understand that. I understand that now, especially when I started doing my fast. I fasted for 40, I think it was like 45 days one time. And people like, oh, you can't fast. Yes, you can. You can fast. And I mean, when I say fast, it was mostly like a water fast, But what I couldn't go without was without that word, without, doing what I was supposed to do, without having that spirit within me. Like, I could not. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about. Some people, if you need the help, yes, you need the help. But God never deals with what you lost. He always deals with what you have. So, if you don't have, sometimes, I'm not talking about all the time, sometimes when you don't have food or resources like that. There was one time where I thought I didn't, but they give out food out here like crazy. And I was like, no, matter of fact, I didn't have food. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go on a fast. After that, it was so much food. It was so much resources, so much everything else. And then after that, I noticed, I was like, that's just too much. I need to go on a more fast, on another spiritual cleanse, another fast like that. So, yeah, I'm not going to stay on here any longer. Hopefully something I said or done will help you on your journey. Please stay tuned to Journey to Jerusalem. If this can help someone, please share it. If it helped you, please share it. Like my page, and thank you.